What if a map could tell police where crime might happen tomorrow? It sounds like science fiction. A city at night, a glowing screen. One neighborhood turns red. Officers are sent there before anything happens. That is the promise behind predictive policing. But the reality is much more complicated than the name suggests. Predictive policing does not usually mean a computer knows that one specific person is about to commit a crime. It is not a crystal ball. It is not a machine that can see the future. Most systems look at records from the past, where incidents were reported, what time they happened, what type of crime was recorded, which streets had repeated problems, which locations had patterns. Then the system produces a prediction, not a certainty, a prediction. It may say, this area has a higher chance of vehicle theft this week, or this block has had repeated break-ins at this time of day. And at first, that sounds reasonable. Police already use maps. They already study reports. They already decide where to send limited resources. The difference is that now software can process much more data, much faster. But there is a problem hidden inside every prediction. The system only knows what it has been given. And crime data is not the same thing as crime itself. It is a record of what was reported, what was observed, what was recorded, and what was enforced. Those things are not always equal. Some crimes are never reported. Some people do not trust the police enough to call. Some neighborhoods have more officers present than others. And when there are more officers in one place, they naturally see more, document more, and create more records. Then the system looks at those records and says, this area has more incidents, but does it? Or does it have more attention? That question is where the real story begins. Imagine two neighborhoods with similar problems. In the first neighborhood, people call the police. Every event becomes a data point. In the second neighborhood, people avoid calling. They don't trust the system or they worry about the consequences. The official data will not look the same, but the reality is much closer than numbers suggest. Now, suppose police are already concentrated in one of these areas. They see more, stop more, and write more reports. This creates a loop. More presence leads to more recorded incidents. More incidents make an area look higher risk, so the model sends more attention there. The system simply measures its own behavior. Numbers have a history. The question isn't, is the algorithm smart, but what exactly is it learning from? There is another important distinction. Some systems predict places. Others try to predict people. A place-based system may say that a certain street has a higher chance of car theft this weekend. A person-based system may attempt to score individuals using previous records, associations, locations, or interactions with the justice system. These are very different tools, but they share the same danger. A prediction can become a label. If a neighborhood is marked high risk, the people who live there may feel that the label follows them. If a person receives a risk score, that score may affect how others see them before they have done anything new. And a risk score is not destiny. It is not a moral verdict. It is not proof that someone is dangerous. It is a calculation based on past data. The model does not know whether someone changed their life. It does not understand a family emergency, a lost job, a new home, a mistake from years ago, or a decision to start over. It sees patterns, that is all, and patterns can be misleading. A person may look unusual to a system because they work night shifts, because they travel, because they moved, because their phone changed, because their data was incorrect. An algorithm does not understand the story behind the signal. A human being can. That is why a prediction should never be the end of the process. It should be the beginning of a question. What does this result actually mean? What information is missing? Could there be another explanation? Who checks the system when it gets something wrong? Because if a computer's prediction changes how someone is treated, then the person deserves more than a number on a screen. In the end, they deserve more than a calculation. They deserve context. Supporters of predictive policing often say that it helps police use limited resources more effectively. And sometimes data can be useful. It can show where repeated car thefts occur. It can identify patterns around certain times or locations. It can help cities understand where lighting is poor, where emergency response is slow, or where people repeatedly ask for help. The problem is not data. The problem is what happens next. If a system identifies an area with repeated harm, there are many possible responses. More patrols, better street lighting, community outreach, youth programs, mental health services, housing support, transit improvements, victim support. The prediction itself does not choose between those options. People do. And that is why predictive policing is not only a technology story, it is a value story. If the only answer to risk is more surveillance, then the system may create fear without solving the problem. If the goal is prevention, then prevention has to mean more than watching people. It has to mean asking why harm keeps happening in the first place. A map can identify a pattern, but it cannot explain a neighborhood. It cannot understand trust. It cannot understand poverty. It cannot understand why people are afraid to report crime. And it cannot decide what fairness looks like. That decision still belongs to people. The danger begins when institutions treat a prediction as an answer instead of a starting point, because technology is very good at finding patterns. But finding a pattern is not the same thing as understanding it. So what would responsible predictive policing look like? First, transparency. Communities should know whether these systems are being used. They should know what kind of data goes into them and what decisions they can influence. Second, independent testing. A company should not be the only one deciding whether its own system works. Researchers, oversight bodies, and communities should be able to examine accuracy, error rates, bias, and real-world impact. Third, limits. A prediction should never replace evidence. A red zone on a map should not become an excuse to treat everyone in that area as suspicious. Fourth, human accountability. If a system influences a serious decision, a real person must be responsible for reviewing it. Not just accepting it, reviewing it, and finally, an appeal. People should have a way to challenge a decision if a system gets them wrong, because every model makes mistakes. The goal is not to build a machine that claims it is never wrong. The goal is to build systems that do less harm when they are wrong. Predictive policing will always sound futuristic, but the real issue is not futuristic at all. It is deeply human. Who gets watched? Who gets believed? Who gets labeled? Who gets a second chance? A computer may predict where trouble could happen, but it cannot decide what justice should look like. And if we forget that, we risk building systems that are very good at predicting the past, while making it much harder to create a better future.